My grandmother's house had a second front door. My grandmother died on a Tuesday in March, and I inherited a house I'd never been allowed to enter. That should have been my first warning. I'd visited her dozens of times growing up, but always at her apartment in the city. She'd bring cookies in a blue tin, and we'd sit in her tiny living room with its smell of lavender and old books. When I asked about her real house, the one my mother grew up in, she'd smile and say it wasn't a place for children. Then she'd change the subject. The lawyer handed me the keys at the reading of the will, two identical brass keys on a ring with a paper tag. The tag had an address written in my grandmother's careful handwriting, and below it a single sentence: "Remember what I taught you." But she hadn't taught me anything, not about the house anyway. I drove out on a Saturday morning. The house sat at the end of a gravel road, surrounded by pine trees that seemed too tall and too close. It was smaller than I'd imagined. A cottage, really, white paint peeling in strips, a porch with two rocking chairs, and two front doors. They sat side by side, identical down to the brass knockers and the small windows at eye level. The left door had a darker threshold, as if it had been used more. The right door's threshold was lighter, almost new. I tried the left door first. It opened smoothly, and I stepped into a narrow hallway. The air inside was stale but not unpleasant. Dust hung in the afternoon light. To my left was a living room frozen in time. Floral couch, lace doilies, a television from the 80s. To my right, a kitchen with yellow countertops and a refrigerator that hummed despite no one living here for months. I spent the afternoon sorting through her things. Photo albums showed my mother as a little girl, always photographed inside the house, never on the porch or in the yard. Letters bundled with string. A recipe box filled with cards in my grandmother's handwriting. Normal things, sad things, nothing that explained the two doors or why I'd never been welcome here. As the sun started to set, I heard a knock. It came from the front of the house. A solid, deliberate sound, 3 raps, evenly spaced. I walked back to the hallway and peered through the small window in the left door. No one on the porch. The rocking chairs sat empty. The trees swayed slightly in a breeze I couldn't feel from inside. I opened the door anyway. The porch was empty. The gravel driveway showed only my car. I stepped outside and looked around, but saw nothing except forest and the dying light filtering through the pines. When I turned back, I froze. The right door was open, just a crack, maybe 6 inches. I could see darkness beyond it, thicker than the shadows inside the house. I knew I hadn't opened it. I'd only used the left door, I was certain. I pulled the left door closed behind me and approached the right one slowly. Through the gap, I couldn't see the hallway I knew was there, just black, solid and complete. I pushed the door wider. The hallway was the same, but different. The floral couch in the living room was green instead of blue. The kitchen had white countertops, not yellow. And there was a smell, faint but distinct, like copper and rain. I backed onto the porch and pulled the right door shut. My hands were shaking. I went back through the left door and everything was as it should be. Blue couch, yellow counters, the recipe box still sitting on the kitchen table where I'd left it. I found my grandmother's number in my phone and stared at it for a long moment before I remembered she was dead. Instead, I called my mother. Did Grandma ever mention anything about the house? I asked about the doors. My mother was quiet for several seconds. What doors? The 2 front doors, side by side. Another pause, longer this time. There's only one door, the blue one. Mom, I'm looking at them right now. There are 2. No, she said, and her voice had changed, harder, frightened. There's one door, don't use the other one. Do you hear me? Don't open it. I already did. She made a sound I'd never heard her make before. Then don't answer when it knocks. If it knocks, you don't answer, not the first time and especially not the second time. That was her only rule. The line went dead. I tried to call back, but it went straight to voicemail. I tried 3 more times with the same result. I went back to the hallway and looked at both doors. They were closed now, both of them. I hadn't closed the right one, I was sure of that, but there it was, shut tight. I turned on every light in the house and settled onto the blue couch with my phone. I searched for information about houses with 2 front doors, about my grandmother, about the address. Nothing useful came up, just articles about feng shui and Victorian architecture. The knock came again at 8:15, 3 raps, right door. I stayed on the couch. I didn't move. I barely breathed. Silence stretched out. I counted to 100, then 200. Nothing. At 8:40, I crept to the hallway and looked through the small window in the right door. The porch was empty. But the rocking chairs were moving slightly, like someone had just stood up from one of them. I went back to the couch and tried my mother again, still voicemail. The 3rd knock came at 9:30, not 3 raps this time, just one, hard enough that I heard the door rattle in its frame. Left door. I stood in the living room, my heart hammering. My grandmother's voice echoed in my head, even though I'd never heard her say the words. Remember what I taught you. She'd taught me to be polite. To say please and thank you, to help others, to answer when someone called my name, to answer the door when someone knocked. I walked to the hallway. Through the small window I saw a woman standing on the porch. She wore a long coat despite the mild evening. Her face was turned slightly away, but I could see enough to know I didn't recognize her. She knocked again, one firm rap. My hand reached for the doorknob before I could stop myself. Old habits, muscle memory. Politeness drilled into me since childhood. I turned the knob and pulled the door open 6 inches. The woman turned to face me, and I saw that she had my grandmother's eyes. The same gray-blue, the same slight downturn at the outer corners, but her face was wrong, too smooth, too symmetrical, like a painting of a person rather than an actual person. "Hello," she said. Her voice sounded like wind through the pine trees. "I'm here to make an exchange." "What exchange?" "The house for you." I started to close the door, but she moved faster than anyone should be able to move. Her hand caught the edge of the door, and I saw that her fingers were too long with too many joints. "You answered," she said. "That's the first time. I'll come back for the second." She stepped backward off the porch and walked into the trees. She didn't disappear or fade. She just walked into the darkness between the pines, and I lost sight of her. I slammed the door and locked it. Then I checked the right door, also locked. Dragged the kitchen table into the hallway and wedged it against both doors. My phone rang. It was my mother. "Are you still there at the house?" "Yes." Something came. I opened the door. Once or twice. Once she said she'd come back. My mother's breathing was ragged. "Then you have until she knocks the second time. If you answer twice, you'll have to make the exchange. That's what happened to your grandmother." "What exchange? What are you talking about?" "The house for the person. My mother wasn't your grandmother." "Not your real grandmother. She was the woman who answered the door twice a long time ago. She took the house and the life that came with it, and the real owner went somewhere else, somewhere behind the other door." I looked at the right door. It was rattling slightly, though there was no wind inside the house. "She kept the rule after that," my mother continued. "She never answered twice. She protected you from it, kept you away so you'd never have to know. But now she's gone, and the house needs someone." "It always needs someone. How do I stop it?" "You don't answer the second time, no matter what it promises, no matter what it threatens. You don't open that door." The knock came as she said it. One knock, right door, then immediately one knock on the left door, the same knock at the same time on both doors. "It's knocking," I whispered. "That's not the second time," my mother said. "The second time is when you hear your own voice on the other side." Both doors began to rattle. The table scraped across the floor. I ran to the back of the house and found a door I hadn't noticed before, partially hidden behind a bookshelf. I pulled the bookshelf aside and tried the handle. Locked. I heard my voice from the front hallway. "Hello, is anyone there? I need help. Please let me in." It was perfect. Every inflection, every tremor of fear. It was exactly how I would sound if I were the one outside, desperate and scared. "Please," my voice called. "It's cold out here. Want to come home?" I covered my ears, but I could still hear it. The knock came again, 3 times on each door in perfect unison. "That's the second time," my mother said through the phone. "Don't answer. Whatever you do, don't answer." I huddled in the back bedroom, my hands pressed over my ears, while my own voice begged and pleaded from the porch. It went on for hours. Sometimes it cried, sometimes it screamed. Sometimes it went silent for long stretches, and those silences were worse than the noise. Sometime after midnight, it stopped. I waited until dawn before I moved. The house was quiet. I crept to the hallway and looked through the window in the left door. The porch was empty, but there were muddy footprints leading from the right door to the left door and back again, dozens of them overlapping, pacing. I grabbed my keys and my phone and left through the back door, not looking back until I was in my car. I called a real estate agent from the road and listed the house that afternoon. I told her there was only one front door because that's what the listing needed to say. The house sold in a week to a young couple who thought it was charming. I tried to warn them, but the words wouldn't come out right. I tried to tell them about the rule, about not answering twice, but every time I opened my mouth, I found myself saying something else instead. "Congratulations, it's a lovely house. You'll be very happy there. I still have nightmares where I hear knocking, 3 raps, evenly spaced. And in the dreams, I always walk to the door. I always reach for the handle. I always start to turn it, but I wake up before I open it the second time. I hope I always wake up. Drop your verdict in the comments. Wait, what?